shone ominously over the nondescript old house. The light of a kerosene lamp was visible in one window. A dirty room that has never been ventilated. Dust was everywhere. Various body parts hung on rusty nails on the wall, arms, legs, heads, and even male genitalia. There were jars of severed lips, noses, fingers, and clitoris on the shelves. The smell of rotten meat clung to the walls of the room. A butcher was sitting at a dilapidated wooden table. He examined the arsenal, cleavers, knives, saws. He liked to admire his kit before getting down to business butchering meat. The screams of the victims never stopped. They all asked for help, to be released, that they were not to blame for anything. But they didn't know that the butcher had specially selected them. All those who are sitting in cages now have delicious future dishes on the table. There are no humiliated and insulted people here, as well as evil fate. They should be happy to be in the butcher's stomach. The butcher got up from the table, and with slow and heavy steps he walked out of his room into a hall full of cages. He looked blankly at each of the bars. Many hands reached out to him. The victims begged to be spared and released. Some even demanded that he let them go, and shouted about the disastrous consequences for the butcher if he decided to kill them. Only a small part accepted their fate, just huddled in a corner of the cage and waited for their fate. The butcher stretched out his hand, holding out a crooked finger, and began to count. He often did this when he couldn't decide. Stammering and barely pronouncing the words, the butcher finished the count. The finger stopped on a young blonde with a broken voice. The girl, in turn, tried to scream and shook her head, coaxed and begged. She couldn't accept the fact that she was going to be killed and eaten. And it was him, the butcher. The cage door opened. The girl tried to escape, but the butcher grabbed her hair tightly and pulled her towards him. The blonde fell, painfully hitting her foot against the bars of her cage. She kicked and fought back, but all these attempts brought no result to anyone. The butcher dragged her into the great hall, where he was engaged in butchering. He hit the stomach several times so that the food wouldn't kick. He picked her up, turned her upside down, and hung her on a hook. The tip went perfectly into the anus, almost through. The blood turned the girl's body scarlet in warm streams. The pain filled my insides, and the screams grew louder. The tears wouldn't stop flowing. Suffering distorted the girl's face. The butcher returned to the room where he kept his assortment. I took a bag and put everything I needed in it. The blonde was already convulsing. One cut on her neck finished her off. Now the face has turned scarlet. When the girl stopped showing signs of life, the butcher got down to business. Large chunks were taken from the thighs, the breasts along with them. Fleshy parts on the sides. You'll have to tinker with the insides. Some of the bones can be used for handicrafts. The skin will easily go on clothes. For gloves or a jacket, you just need to carefully separate it from the flesh. Very carefully. The smell of fresh meat and blood filled the room. The butchering is done. Now let's move on to cooking. Let the pieces from the thighs and breasts roast. You can add some greens and onions. The heart boils along with the tongue. A pinch of salt in a saucepan, and potatoes at the same time. Buttocks are an entertaining thing. They can be fried without cutting, or in small pieces, seasoned with pepper and liver. Cooking is easier than butchering. The whole night flew by, The butcher didn't even notice. And only now, when he sat down at the table, he looked at his watch. It's already morning. So, can we start breakfast? The butcher ate the food he had prepared with an incredible appetite. Food will always taste better if you cook it yourself. He's seen it more than once, and this one will be his last. There was already persistent knocking on the door, trying to break down the door and shouting something. The butcher paid no attention to the police. He knew that this moment would come someday. That one day an ordinary madman who wouldn't even hurt a fly would become a monster for everyone. But he could butcher pigs, as his father, grandfather, and great-grandfather did. But he wanted something new, namely, human meat. The butcher knew that no one would suspect him at first, but it dragged on for a year, then for 2, then for 5 years. Therefore, he deliberately made sure that he was noticed, caught, and severely punished. The door flew off its hinges. A lot of footsteps sounded in the house. The game is over. This was the butcher's last meal.